Open plains, endless sky, and over 1 million animals on the move. Welcome to the Serengeti. Every year, this land hosts one of the most impressive animal movements on the planet. But there's more than just migration. From its cultural roots to its global status, here's what makes it extraordinary. In northern Tanzania, stretching across vast open land, lies one of Africa's most emblematic ecosystems, the Serengeti. It sits within the Mara and Simiyu administrative regions, bordering Kenya to the north. That border isn't just political. It marks the natural continuation of the Serengeti ecosystem into the Masai Mara, creating a transboundary corridor essential for wildlife migration. The closest urban gateway is Arusha, located about 325 kilometers from the park's southern entrance. Many travelers begin their journey there, either by road or through regional flights. Mwanza, to the west, is another important access point. From both cities, it's possible to reach the park by small aircraft landing at one of several airstrips, including Seronera, Ndutu, Kogatende, and Grumeti, or by long drives through scenic rural routes. Covering roughly 14,750 square kilometers, the Serengeti isn't a uniform landscape. It's divided into distinct zones, each offering a different experience. In the central area, known as Seronera, rivers and woodlands attract predators and prey year-round. To the north, near the Mara River, the landscape shifts toward hills and acacia trees, and this is where massive herds cross during the Great Migration between July and October. The western corridor follows the Grumeti River, with gallery forests and crocodile-filled waters. In the south, the open plains of Ndutu host birthing season between December and March, when tens of thousands of calves are born in synchrony. The Serengeti doesn't exist in isolation. It forms part of a larger ecosystem that includes protected areas like Ngorongoro Conservation Area, Maswa Game Reserve, and the Masai Mara in Kenya. Together, they preserve migratory routes and safeguard genetic diversity. Animals aren't confined by borders. Their survival depends on being able to move freely across this network. Geographically, the Serengeti is a mix of flat plains, scattered kopjes, rocky outcrops that offer shade, shelter, and vantage points, and seasonal rivers that dictate the movement of wildlife. These features shape animal behavior. Predators use the kopjes to survey the landscape. Grazers follow water and grass cycles, constantly moving in response to rains and new growth. For visitors, each terrain presents a different rhythm, sometimes dramatic, sometimes still, but never predictable. The park's climate follows a tropical savanna pattern. Rain typically falls in two main periods, from March to May, and again from October to November. The long, dry season, between June and September, forces animals to travel farther for food and water. These shifts don't just move animals, they move the entire park's dynamics. Dry riverbeds become temporary highways, and fresh grasslands trigger waves of migration. When the park was established, the motivation was clear. The wildlife needed space. Protecting this specific region meant safeguarding not just individual species, but a system, one shaped by climate, terrain, and time. The Serengeti's geography doesn't just frame the scenery. It determines how life unfolds. Where the rivers flow, the herds follow. The plains aren't just a backdrop. They are the reason this cycle of movement, birth, and survival has endured. Before it was a national park, the Serengeti was part of a much older story. Archaeological findings near its boundaries, especially in the Olduvai Gorge, reveal one of the richest records of early human life on Earth. Fossils, tools, and skeletal remains found in the area date back nearly 2 million years, placing this region at the center of human evolution. Although these discoveries were made just outside the Serengeti's current borders, they highlight how the surrounding landscape has always been tied to the development of life, both human and non-human. For centuries, different communities lived across what is now the Serengeti. Among them, the Masai became the most prominent. Their presence predates the park, and their way of life was deeply connected to the land. Cattle herding was not just a means of survival. It shaped seasonal movement, social organization, and spiritual beliefs. The Masai, along with groups like the Ikoma and Kuria, had systems for coexisting with wildlife, managing water sources, and adapting to periods of scarcity without permanent settlements or intensive land use. European contact began in the late 1800s. Early explorers, missionaries, and colonial agents documented the region, though often through distorted lenses. German colonial officials were among the first to map the area during their control of what was then German East Africa. Later, under British rule, the territory became Tanganyika. At the time, reports described the Serengeti as untouched, ignoring the indigenous presence. Colonial hunting expeditions, driven by prestige and collection, became common. What Europeans saw as wilderness was, in reality, a managed landscape. During the colonial period, the idea of conserving wildlife took hold. The Serengeti National Park was officially established in 1951. It became the first national park in Tanganyika. The main goal was to protect the vast herds of wildebeest, zebra, and other grazing animals that migrate across its plains. At the time, hunting pressures and encroaching settlement raised concerns about the collapse of this natural cycle. Creating the park was seen as a way to preserve not just individual species, but the ecosystem itself. But early conservation came with displacement. As a result, entire Maasai communities were removed from core areas and relocated to regions like the Ngorongoro Conservation Area. The justification was ecological preservation, but the impact was social, erasing ancestral rights in the name of protection. This push for conservation was reinforced by scientific expeditions. Among them, the work of Bernhard Grzimek and his son Michael was especially influential. They conducted aerial surveys to estimate animal populations and raised international awareness about the ecosystem's value. Their 1959 documentary, Serengeti Shall Not Die, helped change global perceptions, portraying the region as a threatened sanctuary that deserved protection. The film won awards and shaped conservation narratives for decades. But once again, human presence was often treated as secondary. Since then, the park has grown, with surrounding areas like Grumeti and Ikorongo forming buffer zones. Still, challenges have persisted. In recent decades, illegal hunting, human-wildlife conflict, and land use pressure have tested conservation strategies. In response, new models have emerged, involving local communities in monitoring, tourism, and land stewardship. These efforts aim to move beyond protection alone and build more inclusive systems. The Serengeti is one of the richest ecosystems on Earth, where life is in constant motion and balance. At the center of this dynamic web are the animals known as the Big Five: lion, leopard, elephant, buffalo, and rhinoceros. All of them can still be found in the Serengeti and play a vital ecological role. Lions are widespread, especially in the central Serenera region. They regulate herbivore numbers and control weak or diseased animals. Leopards are more elusive, but often spotted resting in trees near rivers, maintain balance among smaller prey. Elephants roam across different zones, particularly in the north and western corridor, shape the landscape by knocking down trees and digging for water, creating microhabitats. Buffaloes are abundant in various habitats, forming large herds, contribute to seed dispersion and grassland renewal. The black rhinoceros, once nearly wiped out, survives in small, protected populations monitored closely by conservation teams. Beyond the Big Five, The Serengeti is home to a range of other predators. Cheetahs, built for speed rather than strength, prefer open plains where they can outrun their prey. Hyenas operate in large clans, often scavenging, but also skilled in coordinated hunting. Jackals and servals fill smaller ecological niches, while African wild dogs, though rare, remain one of the park's most efficient hunters. These species interact constantly, competing for space, following each other's kills, or shifting territories based on availability of prey. All of this revolves around the vast numbers of herbivores that define the Serengeti. The park hosts over 1.5 million wildebeest, more than 250,000 zebras, and hundreds of thousands of gazelles. Elands, topis, hartebeests, impalas, and giraffes add to this diverse mix, each with its own niche in the ecosystem. Most of these herbivores form large, loosely organized herds. Their movements are not random. They follow ancient paths guided by weather patterns and the growth of fresh grass. Predators track these migrations, shaping their own behavior and breeding cycles around the availability of food. It's a delicate, predictable chaos that has unfolded for thousands of years. The Great Migration is the centerpiece of life here. Every year, more than 2 million animals move across the Serengeti in search of grazing land and water. The cycle begins in the southern plains between December and March, when wildebeest calves are born almost simultaneously. As the rains stop, the herds head northwest toward the Grumeti River, facing crocodile-infested waters and increasing predation. By mid-year, they reach the Mara River, where the most dramatic crossings occur. Finally, they return south before the next cycle begins. This migration isn't just a spectacle. It fertilizes the land, shapes predator territories, and supports a wide range of other species that depend on the movement of these herds. But not all life in the Serengeti moves with the herds. Hippos remain in rivers and pools throughout the year, emerging at dusk to graze. Baboons and vervet monkeys live in troops near woodlands and water sources. Warthogs are common across open areas, often seen kneeling to graze. Smaller mammals like mongooses, genets, and bush babies are harder to spot, many of them nocturnal and active only after sunset. Bird life is equally diverse. Over 500 species have been recorded, making the Serengeti a haven for birdwatchers. Birds of prey soar high, eagles, hawks, and vultures scanning for movement below. Wetlands and seasonal pools attract herons, storks, and even flamingos. On the ground, ostriches, bustards, and francolins roam the plains. Many birds are migratory, arriving from Europe and Asia during seasonal shifts. Others, like the lilac-breasted roller or secretary bird, are resident and easily recognized by their vivid appearance or behavior. Reptiles and amphibians are less visible, but no less important. Nile crocodiles dominate the rivers, while pythons and monitor lizards patrol the undergrowth. Tortoises and geckos, frogs and toads all contribute to controlling insect populations and supporting the food chain. These creatures depend heavily on seasonal rains, with many breeding during or immediately after wet periods. The plant life of the Serengeti is as structured as its animal migrations. Its dominant vegetation type is tropical savanna, vast open grasslands mixed with pockets of woodland and scattered shrubs. The southern plains are covered in short grasses, which regenerate quickly after rains and are vital for grazing herds. In contrast, the western and northern regions support denser growth, with taller grasses and mixed woodland. Riverine zones feature tamarind trees, wild figs, and lush undergrowth, creating cooler microhabitats along seasonal streams and permanent water channels. While the Serengeti is not particularly known for high rates of plant endemism, it still hosts species that are regionally significant and adapted specifically to its environment. Some endemic grasses, succulents, and herbs thrive in isolated pockets, especially near copias and alkaline soils. Baobabs stand out across the central and western Serengeti, not just as visual landmarks, but as ecosystems in themselves, supporting bats, insects, and nesting birds. Fire-resistant species dominate much of the landscape, having evolved to withstand natural and managed burns. These fires are critical for controlling bush encroachment, recycling nutrients, and triggering germination in fire-adapted flora. The vegetation of the Serengeti isn't just backdrop. It drives the rhythm of migration, shapes predator ambush strategies, and sustains one of the most complex food webs on the continent. What emerges from all this is more than just biodiversity. It's a living process. The Serengeti isn't defined by a single species, or even by the migration alone. Its strength lies in connection. Every animal, every plant, every shift in wind or rain, each plays a role in the survival of the whole. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also check our playlist for more incredible World Heritage sites. Visiting the Serengeti is not a single experience. It's a collection of landscapes, wildlife encounters, and seasonal moments that shift depending on where and when you go. The park is divided into several zones, each offering a different perspective on its natural cycles. At the heart lies the Serengeti Valley, a central region with rivers, scattered trees, and high concentrations of wildlife throughout the year. It's the most accessible part of the park, and often where visitors see the largest variety of species in a short amount of time. To the north, near Kogatende and Lobo, the terrain becomes hillier and more wooded. From July to October, this is where herds cross the Mara River during the most dramatic phase of the migration. The western corridor, shaped by the Grumeti River, features dense vegetation and draws in predators like crocodiles and lions during the migration months of May and June. Further south, in the Indutu area, open plains stretch to the horizon, and from December to March, it's where thousands of wildebeest calves are born within a few weeks, attracting predators and offering an entirely different kind of intensity. Most visitors explore the Serengeti through game drives, morning and afternoon safaris aboard 4x4 vehicles led by trained guides. These drives allow close-up views of lions, elephants, giraffes, and more, often within minutes of departure. In some private reserves, night drives are permitted, revealing nocturnal species such as civets, genets, and owls. Walking safaris are available in specific areas near the park boundaries, offering a slower, more detailed look at plants, tracks, and insects. Some experiences include traditional tracking methods led by local guides, connecting observation with knowledge passed down over generations. One of the most iconic experiences in the Serengeti is the hot air balloon safari. These flights typically begin before sunrise, offering a bird's-eye view of the plains as they come to life. The silence, the changing light, and the chance to see herds from above make it unforgettable. Flights last around an hour and end with breakfast in the bush, a detail that draws travelers seeking something more personal than the usual drive. Balloon safaris are offered mainly in the central and northern regions and are popular among couples, photographers, and travelers looking for a quieter, panoramic experience. Each type of safari offers a different rhythm. It all depends on what kind of story each traveler wants to witness. In 1981, the Serengeti was officially added to the UNESCO World Heritage List. Its recognition was based on two key criteria, both focused on the exceptional natural qualities of the ecosystem. The first, criterion number 7, highlights areas of outstanding natural beauty and remarkable natural phenomena. In the Serengeti, this is embodied by the scale of its landscapes and the drama of the Great Migration, a yearly movement of millions of animals across open plains, rivers, and woodlands. Few places on Earth offer such a powerful visual and ecological spectacle. The second, criterion number 10, refers to sites that contain the most important natural habitats for biodiversity conservation. The Serengeti fits this definition precisely. It supports a complex web of species, including large mammals, birds, reptiles, and plants, many of them threatened or found in few other places. What sets the Serengeti apart isn't just its wildlife. It's the intactness of an entire system that continues to function on its own terms, with minimal fragmentation and deep ecological memory. But even a landscape as vast as the Serengeti faces pressure. Poaching still threatens species like rhinos and elephants, especially in remote areas where patrols are difficult. Expanding agriculture along park boundaries can disrupt migratory routes, block access to water, and increase human-wildlife conflict. As tourism grows, so does the need to manage vehicle traffic, lodge expansion, and the ecological footprint of visitors. Climate change adds further uncertainty, altering rainfall patterns and stressing both animals and vegetation. In response, various conservation strategies are in place. Regular aerial monitoring helps track herd movements and detect illegal activities. Anti-poaching units work across multiple zones, often in collaboration with local rangers and international partners. On the ground, camera traps and GPS collars provide detailed insights into animal behavior, migration patterns, and population dynamics. Community-based programs aim to involve nearby villages in protecting wildlife while also creating economic opportunities. Initiatives like Snapshot Serengeti, a research project based on camera traps, provide valuable data for long-term planning. The Frankfurt Zoological Society has played a central role in many of these efforts. With a long history in the park, the organization supports research, ranger training, and habitat protection. Alongside them, UNESCO, Tanzanian authorities, and smaller NGOs contribute to managing one of the most studied and protected natural areas on the continent. The goal isn't just to preserve animals. It's to maintain a living, self-regulating ecosystem where migration, reproduction, and predator-prey dynamics continue without interruption. That's what gives the Serengeti its place on the global stage, and why it remains a priority for conservation worldwide. Some lodges and safari operators follow sustainability models that go beyond minimizing environmental impact. They employ local staff, source food and materials from nearby villages, and invest in education, healthcare, or wildlife protection. These models show that it's possible to support the ecosystem while providing meaningful benefits to the people who live closest to it. Annually, the Serengeti attracts approximately 600,000 visitors, contributing significantly to Tanzania's tourism revenue, which reached $3.9 billion in 2024. Most international tourists arrive from the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, and South Africa, drawn by the promise of wide-open spaces and close encounters with wildlife. A significant portion of this revenue supports conservation programs, infrastructure maintenance, and local community development through partnerships and revenue-sharing initiatives. The Snapshot Serengeti project employs over 200 camera traps across 1,250 square kilometers, capturing millions of images to study animal behaviors and interactions. This citizen science initiative has become a cornerstone in wildlife research, providing invaluable data for conservation strategies. However, the Serengeti faces significant threats from poaching. Estimates suggest that between 97,000 and 140,000 wildebeest are illegally hunted each year for bushmeat. This unsustainable offtake poses a serious risk to the migration dynamics and overall health of the ecosystem. The Serengeti has also become a symbol far beyond the borders of Tanzania. Its influence reached global pop culture through The Lion King, a film inspired by its landscapes, wildlife, and Masai traditions. The park continues to be featured in major documentaries by BBC Earth, National Geographic, Netflix, and Discovery Channel. Productions like Serengeti and Africa have brought the sights and sounds of the ecosystem to screens worldwide. In addition to its UNESCO World Heritage status, the Serengeti has been listed among the 7 natural wonders of Africa, a recognition that underscores its global importance, not just for biodiversity, but as a cultural and scientific reference. It consistently ranks as one of the top safari destinations in the world, admired not only for its wildlife, but for the way it holds together a living, seasonal story on a truly continental scale. The Serengeti is more than a destination. It's a cycle of life that has shaped the land, its people, and the species that move through it. From vast plains and migrating herds to cultural heritage and global recognition, every part of this ecosystem tells a story of balance and survival. Now it's your turn. What part of the Serengeti fascinates you the most? Have you visited, or is it still on your list? Share your thoughts in the comments, whether it's the wildlife, the landscapes, the people, or the rhythm of the migration. This space is open for those who've seen it up close and those who are just beginning to dream.